Rocket center Clint Capella had a hilarious tweet in response to all the videos saying, quote, everybody can shoot in July.
Oh.
Twitter coaches chill.
Ben Simmons out there. I think Julius Randle, Rodney Hood, Michael Beasley out there with them. You know, this shot we got kind of the still shot of right there. The form was a little funny. Like,
we should put something up like this and be like, did he shoot the ball with his right hand or his left hand?
Again, like I said,
his fundamentals
are not great.
Are awful.
But he's working, man. You want to see him working. This is a baby step. You got, I implore you.
No, I don't. I don't want to see him on the court. I want to see him doing drills.
Well, maybe he is, but those aren't going to go.
Nick, maybe I might be right.
You might be right.
Maybe I might be right about this.
You might be right, but I'm saying they're not gonna publicize him doing the drills.
When you take bad shots against bad competition, you create bad habits. All right? Like, he's already a bad shooter. He needs to take good shots from deep.
Right. The reason I said
does that make sense?
Of course it does. But the reason I said is
if I was trying to teach a kid how to catch the football, you think I would start with one hand? You think I would be doing trick shots?
No, but you said last time you don't want him to do any dunks in these games. You want him shooting jump shots.
Right.
So this is a baby step towards
baby step.
Can I tell you what I saw yesterday?
What kind of contract did he get, Nick?
He got a max contract.
Okay, well, how much is that?
He got about 170.
And we're applauding him because of what?
Baby steps.
I saw Melo in the gym just working on drills, not playing in the game at all. Yeah. Just drills. That video went viral.
That's going viral.
We're not going to talk about that. We'll talk about this. Stories to start your morning. Biggest of big brawls in the Reds-Pirates game last night. There's been a season-long simmering feud between these two clubs, and it boiled over. 5 players ultimately ejected, most notably Yasiel Puig. What'd you make of it, Nick?
It was most notably Yasiel Puig because he got traded about 45 minutes before this brawl. Found out from the fans he got traded. Still said, hey, man, last night with my guys, I'm going to go out swinging. Now, the pitcher right there, he was a basketball player at St. John's, and he almost connected with that left, man. That would have been bad news for everyone involved if he connected.
No, he's a for-real fighter. There's a lot of fake fighters, especially in Major League Baseball, but no, he calls it out. He runs to the battle line. I'm not into brawls, but that was exciting to see.
This was a good one, man. Puig's a real fighter, too. He's going crazy. The Reds manager had been kicked out of the game earlier. He comes back into the fray to try to fight poor 70-year-old Clint Hurdle. Clint Hurdle don't want none of that mess. Like, the Reds, they got Bauer yesterday. They lost Puig, but Puig went out with a bang, man. Look at this. Look. That's the best missed punch since Jermaine O'Neal and that fan that came onto the court.
Back to the NFL now. Julio Jones announced he will not be playing in the preseason. Also added he's not waiting for Amari Cooper or Michael Thomas to get their deals done, saying we're not in the same boat. So you agree with this decision to skip preseason games?
I'm fine with Julio. I know him and Matt Ryan. They spend a lot of time in the offseason. I talked to both of them last season. They talked about how they're in sync with each other. They have experience, not only in-game experience, playoff experience. No, Julio works as hard as any receiver, not only during the game, but also in practice. Most veteran players, they don't need a whole bunch of preseason. So this one right here, Julio, every once in a while, I'll grant an exemption. Julio, he has it.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing the exact thing you recommended he do, which is if you have the agreement on the contract, show up. So you're there with your
I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
I mean, this was like the word-for-word advice you gave. Show up and tell them I'm not going to play in the preseason games, get my contract done. I feel like he, aside from Fitzy, who you have a obviously special relationship with, is your favorite receiver in football, Julio Jones.
I mean, he's a special guy. If they have a prototype, it's a picture of him. 6'3", lean body mass, not a diva, wants to play football, loves playing football. Great
Lays and fast.
Oh, yeah, yes. All those things.
All right, let's move to the Dolphins now.
See, he listened to me. Ben Simmons won't listen to me.
New head coach Brian Flores says it's pretty clear to him that Ryan Fitzmagic is leading in the battle for the starting quarterback job. Fitzpatrick is battling with Josh Rosen, who Miami traded for back in April. And this all confused Nick just a little bit. Why, Nick?
Miami. You got fortunate you were able to get a prospect the level of Rosen for only a second-round pick via trade. We know for good and for bad, what Fitzy is. You're not a contender this year. I understand, Brian Flores, you want to put your best foot forward, but it's not just about this season. The Dolphins aren't going to do, I would hope, what the Cardinals did and have one and done for you as a head coach. It's about long-term for the team and long-term getting Rosen as many starts as possible to figure out exactly what you have in him is the best strategy. He has a year in the NFL already. I don't know why Fitzpatrick would possibly be the starter over him when we know what Fitzy is.
Well, this is the thing, Nick. When you run the NFL locker room, you tell the players, the best players are going to play. So I haven't been to one Miami practice. Let me tell you what's happened. Fitzmagic has looked a lot better than Josh Rosen. That's the only reason why Brian Flores would make this type of announcement. It sends a consistent message to the locker room, regardless of what your status is, draft or whatnot. If you do not practice well, he's from New England. You must practice well. Josh Rosen has not practiced well, and Brian said, it's clear to me. It's not a race. It's not close. It's clear to him. So he is doing the right thing as far as establishing his program. You can't put a guy in there on potential. Whoever plays the best should earn the starting spot, and right now, not one of my favorite guys is Fitzmagic.
All right, back to the Cowboys and the standoff
Josh
that is.
Probably heard that with them big ears he got.
Zeke versus Dallas. Zeke wants a hefty new deal. Cowboys clearly taking issue with the hefty part, mainly because Ezekiel Elliott isn't the only player Dallas needs to pay. Dak Prescott and Amari Cooper both looking for new deals as well. But according to Stephen Jones, taking care of them won't be easy.
That's my goal, is at the end of the day, we figure out a contract for Dak, for Amari, for Zeke that's fair, that's one they can be satisfied with. But at the same time, they've got to understand there's a real salary cap out there, and any money that we save in their situations, and it's not their job to manage the cap. I agree with that. That's our job to do. But any money we save is not going in Jerry's pocket. It's going to another football player. I mean, it's a hard cap. It's reality. We have to deal with it. And, you know, at some point, the money we spend on these great players are going to keep us, unfortunately, from probably signing a couple guys that we'd like to keep.
It's like selective memory. It's like the Stephen Jones that we heard from early in the season isn't the same Stephen Jones who suddenly was like, well, hold off. Yeah, we would love to pay you guys, but we got to be a little conservative with our hard cap. Well, what was your reaction to what Stephen Jones had to say?
What he's saying is absolutely correct.
It is.
And it's, I mean, nothing he's saying is wrong. It's just, to your point, not consistent with the messaging they've had previously. And once again, it's a reminder what has thrown off the Cowboys' planning is they did plan to pay Zeke in a year. They did not plan to have to make this decision right now. And here's the spot they find themselves in. Everyone talks about Dak and Amari only having 1 year left on their deal. Well, there's another guy who only has 1 year left on his deal. And unlike Dak and Amari, he was actually on the All-Pro team last year. And that's cornerback Byron Jones, a first-round pick that they want to keep. Next season, they already have under contract those 3 All-Pro offensive linemen who all make between $12 to $15 million next year. That is just assuming La'el Collins walks out the door, Jalen Smith, who's a pending free agent as well, that they do or don't get something figured out with him. So, yeah, the Cowboys are in an incredibly rough spot, not because they don't have cap room, because next year they have, I think, the 5th most cap room of any team. But that's only because none of these guys have been signed. They know that cap room is spoken for, and they are going to have to make a hard decision. You cannot have 3 of the highest paid offensive linemen in the league on your team while also having one of the 5 highest paid quarterbacks, one of the 10 highest paid wide receivers, and the highest paid running back. You just can't. And so they seem to be leaning towards this entire time to paying Dak first and figuring the rest out. And the other part of this that I think maybe has screwed up their budgeting a bit is I think what Carson Wentz got and what Dak is demanding is coming in higher than they expected. That they thought they were going to be able to get Dak in the $22 to $26 million a year range, and Dak is talking in the $30 to $34 million a year range, and that's problematic. So none of this is wrong. It just, what these comments make wrong are the previous comments of promising everybody money whenever some local radio reporter would ask you about them.
Well, it's a constant issue in Dallas, the messaging, when they say it, and the obligations that the owner and other people in the front office make to the media. Jerry's doing a show every week. So every week we get sound bites off of potentially what could be a problem. If you continue to do that, go to New England. Kraft never says anything because he knows that Belichick, he might not be able to live up to it. So you don't get that cross messaging. In Dallas, because they're such high profile in how they run their family business, it's going to always be an issue. The one thing that Amari, one thing that Dak, and one thing that Zeke, more so than those other players on the Cowboys, that they need to realize is, I'm playing for the Dallas Cowboys. All three of those guys are very, very marketable and can make at least 7 figures off the field every year. I would calculate that in as far as being a legendary Dallas Cowboy player compared to some other player. So I would calculate that in. If I'm Zeke, I got 2 years left on my deal, I would be trying to get more guarantees. Forget about the average per year. I would be doing that. If I'm getting Dak, I'm giving them a hometown discount, and I'm telling them, all right, I'm going to give you a hometown discount this time, but I plan on staying here for a long time. Amari Cooper was with the Raiders, and now he's with the Cowboys that he said he wants to stay with for a long period of time. So I just hope all three of those players, because they're not in the same class as Byron Jones and some of those other defenders and everything who aren't as marketable. Sure. They're making real money off the field because of that star on that helmet.
If you could keep 2 of those 3 players, because it seems like that's really all they can afford, who do you keep?
If I could, I'd keep Zeke and Amari. I'd pay Zeke and Amari, and I'd make Dak go prove it. Prove me wrong, Dak. Cost me money. Make me make a tough decision. Make me to where I can't put the franchise tag on you. Make it to where I've got to make you one of the highest paid guys in the league. But I don't think he'd be able to do that. I think that you would see the value come down a bit. And, I mean, the NFL 100, it's a flawed list. I understand. But, man, they got 15 quarterbacks in that top 100. The lowest ranked is Carson Wentz. Nobody is looking at that list and saying, man, Dak got snubbed. That's 15 names. The vast majority of people think, okay, at his position are better than him. It's only 32 teams. He is the definition of a league average quarterback, which in 2019 is a good quarterback because there's so much talent in the league. I mean, to me, that's what I would do. But there's a lot of things the Cowboys did that I wouldn't have done. I'd have been squeamish about paying DeMarcus Lawrence second most money any defensive players, or third most money any defensive players ever made. But they did that. They did that with their offensive linemen. All of a sudden, you got a lot of really good players that are being paid like great players, and it's preventing you from paying the one great player on your roster, Zeke Elliott.
One of Dallas's problems is that they're part of all these shows. There's other guys on teams that are good players being paid great salaries, but we're not talking about them.
No doubt.
They have salary cap issues just like the Cowboys, but these are the Cowboys.
All right, let's move on to the Saints.